What if I told you that you can turn your deepest pain into something positive? Not only can you turn your pain into something positive, but you can also turn your pain into your highest potential. Today, we're going to be speaking with someone who did just that. When Joy Rothberg, the founder of Rhoda's Cookie Club, graduated college with a degree in business management, she thought she would be just like hundreds of other recent grads, looking for a corporate job under the bright lights of New York. But her life did not quite turn out that way. Although I had known Joy for several years, it was in 2019, after the recent death of her mother, that I was sent to help guide her out of a very dark chapter of her life. It was also during this time that God revealed to Joy her true purpose, and it turns out that it involved a talent she had discovered when she was just 12 years old. Get ready for a thought-provoking conversation, and trust me when I say, you don't want to miss this. Coming up now.
It's time to rise, heal, and claim. You're listening to Reclaiming Destiny with Cici Stephen.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for Clarence, and thank you for inviting me to this podcast.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I have been looking forward to this for quite a while, and since I know already how fantastic you are and the kind of conversations we have, I'm looking forward to it and very excited for other people to hear and how all of this came about and what brought us here today, which that reminds me, this was not planned, as you know. So
Right.
I want everyone that will be listening to know that when I wrote down all of the episodes, this was not a part of it. And I was already ready to go, already ready to start production, and I had the list ready and recording it. And then God came to me, or as you love to refer to him as the voice. So when you hear us say the voice, that we're talking about God throughout this show. And he was like, you and Joy are going to work together. I'm like, okay, cool. You're doing what? And he was like, I want her on your show. I want her on the podcast. And I was immediately like, I kind of laughed. And I'm like, well, Joy's shy. That's why I didn't ask her to do it before. But pretty much God gets what he wants. And here we are today.
Yeah.
And when I first brought it to you, because I brought it to you that same night, because I know you so well, and I know that there was some hesitation. And so just why? Were you hesitant or fearful of doing the show?
Well, Clarence, as you know, I don't like being in the spotlight. I know that sounds ridiculous because, as you mentioned many times, I am a Leo. And Leos are known for being in the spotlight. Look at Jennifer Lopez. She's also
Absolutely.
a Leo. Amazing, very talented. I do love her. And she's very talented and very amazing. And she loves the spotlight. You could see it. But I don't enjoy All Eyes on Me, and walking the red carpet would terrify me because the whole time I would think I'm going to face plant as I do this. I feel like I look amazing, but these shoes and everything, I am going to find a way to trip. I'm going to find a way to face plant and embarrass myself. And I guess that was kind of my hesitation. I wanted to do it because I'm your friend and I want to help you out, and you asked me to. And so that's what friends do. And you supported me with the Cookie Club. And so I wanted to do the same for you and support you. And I just hope I don't face plant.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And just like we said, what God wants, he gets, because he knew you had those fears. The same way that he knew, because those who listen to episode 1, Reclaiming Our Destiny, will have heard my story and how in 2018, I was told, leave your job, leave your home where you were living, leave certain people behind, and change your eating habits. All these things were just dropped, in addition to other things. The same year I started therapy, which I didn't even know. I knew that I was starting therapy for something that, of course,
I thought I was going for one reason. And then when I got there and sat on my therapist's couch for the first time, the reason I thought I was going, that didn't get handled or touched till maybe sessions later. Everything else, just 90 seconds in, I'm crying, I'm bawling. So yeah, I know all about just how life can just hit you and just come at you when you least expect it. And those
Right.
moments, I call them defibrillator moments, because a defibrillator can both start and stop the heart.
Yeah.
And it's basically those moments when, you know, your heart stops for a couple seconds because you're like, really? You want me to do this? I'm to
Yeah.
do this? And it's so funny because as I tell the story in episode 1, right when I'm told to leave my job, we all get a raise. The supervisors got a raise. I make it. And not only a raise, but the job got easier. It's like in 2018, like a lot of the stressful things that were going on kind of subsided, and
Yeah.
it was so peaceful and so easy. And now you tell me right as I sit down to clock into work, oh yeah, well, prepare to leave your job. Oh,
Mhm.
really? Okay, got it. So I know it's going to be shocking to everyone hearing this, especially that either is a Leo or knows a Leo, that yes, you're hearing from a Leo that does not like the spotlight. But
Right.
even though she says that, I know there's a part of her that does. And I call her out on it so that you guys are hearing it. And we're about to get into, as much as you don't like the spotlight, how, especially this last year, you've sort of kind of been thrust into that spotlight.
Yeah.
And that's what the journey, the story that we're about to tell. And then I'll let everybody know when I enter into this Broadway show that is called Your Life. So let's take it back to the beginning.
Okay.
Take me back to your childhood. You are from New York originally. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yep. I am.
Gotta
Yep.
love New York.
It is. It's a great city. It really is. And I was born in Brooklyn. I lived in Brooklyn for 9 years till I was 9. So yeah, I lived in Canarsie. So if anyone's familiar with Canarsie, great. So yeah, I lived in Canarsie for 9 years, and off Glenwood and Flatlands Avenue. I even remember the address as well, which I'm not going to give it in case people want to, go back and be like, hey, this is where she is. But I was right by the L train, by the way. I was right by the L train. But we ended up meeting my Canarsie.
Canarsie is known for their bagels. Bagels or pastries is something that they're famous for. Because I watch a lot of Blue Bloods and they talk a lot about Canarsie.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. There's a great bagel shop that we went to right near the library. And even after we moved out, when me and Dad would go into Brooklyn on the weekend sometimes, which I'll explain why in a little bit, we would stop at that great bagel shop that was right by the library. I think now it's gone probably. And I think Top Spot has left as well, which had amazing fried chicken. And also the Knish dog. They created the Knish dog, which I'll explain, is think of a Knish and a foot-long hot dog. A Knish. Basically, you have the Knish as the base, and you put a foot-long hot dog in there, and you wrap it up. So you get the oniony, mashed potato-y goodness of a Knish and the crust of the Knish, and inside is the foot-long hot dog. They're delicious. They're amazing. They're completely unhealthy for me at this moment. But yeah.
Sounds amazing. Well, of course, when I used to be able to eat hot dogs before 2018 when all meat was stripped away from me. But I can eat a plant-based hot dog, which some of them are very good. But you were getting ready to mention your mother and father. So when we come back, we're going to get into that story, okay?
Okay.
We'll be back in one moment.
It's time to rise, heal, and claim. You're listening to Reclaiming Destiny with Cici Stephen.
Okay.
Okay, welcome back. So, right before we went to break, you were going to talk about your mother and father. Can you tell us a little about them?
Yes. My dad, he was, his parents owned his father actually owned um, men's suits. He basically, he had a tailor shop where he would make men's suits and everything. And my dad also knew how to design clothes as well, men's fashion as well as women's fashion. He ended up becoming a special order cutter for a company called Abilt. So he
Nice.
would be a special order cutter. My mom's parents, Evelyn and Nathan Kerman. Nathan Kerman is a house painter, and my grandmother, Evelyn, she's a housewife. And my mom was raised as their daughter. She has a brother, Melvin. No, not
Hmm.
Melvin, Marvin. Melvin is her cousin.
Okay.
So my uncle Marvin is her brother. And my dad has had a brother and two sisters. This brother is still alive. His sisters aren't. But yeah, so my mom, she ended up going to graduating high school, Thomas Jefferson High School in
Hmm.
Brooklyn. And my dad went into the Army at 16. And
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, he joined the Army at 16. And he ended up leaving the Army after a few years. I don't know the exact age he left the Army, but he also used to jump out of airplanes.
Your father was a grade A badass.
Correct. Oh, yeah. But he stopped jumping out of planes because he realized the parachutes don't open, he told me. So it was around the time he left the Army. Mom wanted to be a teacher. I always say she was a frustrated English teacher because anytime she would read our papers, me and Steffi's
Mm-hmm.
papers, for homework or something, she would always be correcting them. So, but she did work. She worked in various different jobs, and she ended up meeting my dad. They met at a dance, and my dad saw her coming in, and he approached her from behind, and my mom loved the way he looked in his suit that he made himself. And just something about my broad shoulders, she said. And she agreed to dance with him. And the rest is history. They were married 6 months later on November 12th of 1966. And they honeymooned in Miami and at the Algiers. Yes, I even remember the name of the hotel because I actually have their honeymoon album as well as their wedding album. And it just worked. There was good times. Of course, every couple has their moments, but they always made a way to work through their moments and always be there for each other and support each other. And when they both decided that living in Canarsie wasn't the best choice, they decided they were going to look for a house elsewhere. And they settled on Staten Island, and we ended up moving to Bull's Head. I was 9. My sister, 3 years older than me, was 12, and she was in junior high. It's kind of rough, by the way, when you're in junior high and you're in a new school and everything. So my sister had it a little rough. I had it a little rough too because I'm 9 years old and everybody knew each other in this PS60 from birth, Clarence. So it was kind of hard because PS60 was actually the school that was down the street from us and everyone knew each other from birth. And so I had to find my niche of settling in. It wasn't easy. And but I had two parents who loved me and who cared about me. I remember my dad staying with me all winter break to help me through my math homework so I can catch up with everyone else because the math that they were doing was completely opposite of what I was doing when I started at 9 years old. Fourth grade math in Brooklyn was completely different than fourth grade math in Staten Island. We were doing algebra. I wasn't doing algebra when I left Brooklyn. So he stayed there and sat with me so I would be able to learn what was going on and to be able to get through my homework. My mom was there to, like I said, frustrated English teacher. Always. No matter
So
what. Mhm.
your mom had a love of teaching.
Yes,
So I'm sure that that translated into the home, into your lives, because one thing about our passion and our purpose is that it's not contained into one area. So like if we want to be a singer, we're going to sing everywhere we can. And so I'm pretty sure with your mom having a passion for teaching, that translated over to you and your sister, I'm sure.
it
Is that
did.
correct? Okay.
It did. I think that also came with our love of reading, and especially my love of reading. My mom loved to read, and my grandmother loved to read. They would swap books with each other. So whatever it was that they were reading, they would swap. Whether it was Juice Krantz or Danielle Steele, they would read them. So I remember seeing various Danielle Steele books, various Judas Krantz books, various different authors. Maeve Binchy is another one my mom read. Barbara Delinsky. She loved to read. And I remember her taking me to the library when I was very little in my stroller, not wanting to stay in my stroller because I knew how to walk and I didn't want to sit in there. So I would wheel my stroller myself. People thought she was a terrible mother, letting a tiny child wheel their stroller. Like, what kind of mother are you? But my mom didn't care. And she put me in it for crossing the street, Clarence, but don't worry. Um,
I love it, and I love her attitude. Like, who gives a shit?
right.
I
Yeah.
love it. Thank you, because I was going to ask you who instilled in you your love of reading, because of the many things you and I have
Yeah.
in common, that is at the top of the list. You know,
Yeah.
you can always catch us with some juicy book. You know,
Yeah.
you know, somewhere.
Right.
Tell me about, like, so how far back? When did you start really reading? Like, what are some of your favorite genres to read?
Okay, so I remember in high school reading my first historical romance novel. And I was always reading, but I remember reading from Sweet Valley High books to Nancy Drew, to the Nancy Drew Hardy Boy mysteries, that because they was the series of Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys together. There was like a 4-book series, and I remember reading that. I remember reading lots of different teen books or young adult books over the time, but I remember the first historical romance I read was by Karen Robards, Green Eyes. I remember reading that. And I also remember my first Amanda Quick book was
Nice.
Scandal. And I read a Shirley Busby. I read a few different books over the years, various different things, and certain books I remember and love, and certain books it's just like they were good, but I did get my mom to read one that I read, actually two. I got her to read two. This one I read when I was in high school. Not in high school, I was in college actually. And this was by Joanne Ross. It was called Southern Comforts. And I got my mom to read it. It took me years, Clarence, but I got my mom to read it. And another one was Amanda Quick's The River Knows. I got her to read an historical romance novel. My mom never read historical romance until I
Hmm.
finally convinced her to read it.
Why are you such a fan of historical romance novels?
I don't know. I just love going back into the past. I think it's, at first, I just love that amazing, good looking, dashing man comes and sweeps you off your feet in the ballroom, and you dance the scandalous waltz, and you wear these gorgeous gowns, and of course, there's possibly a tiara, and you have beautiful glittering stones around your neck and arms, and you're wearing these long gloves, and you have that fan strapped to your wrist, and as well as the dance card, and that dashing man who wasn't on your dance card shows up and sweeps you off your feet into a scandalous waltz, and you just scandalize the entire society. But who cares? Because you found the man of your dreams in one dance.
Okay, so it's about hot guys. I should have known.
That's romance. There is romance.
when we come back, I want to switch gears and I want to talk about baking.
Okay.
So, the love of baking and who got you into that, and
Okay.
how this kind of blossomed into, why we're here today to talk about
Hmm.
the Cookie Club. So, when we come back, we're going to
Okay.
get into that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we're back. So, before the break, we were talking about baking. Who introduced you to baking? Where this love of baking, which, by the way, which we're going to be getting into a part two. We're really going to be talking about it. But those of you who are listening, you have not seen heaven until you have tasted one of Joy's recipes. My personal favorites: the pumpkin chai spice brownies, the lavender honey cookies. I hope I'm saying that right, because the names are so fancy.
Yeah.
I just remember how they taste. Okay, we'll get the names right later. But yeah, so
Okay.
tell me, how did all of this start?
Okay. So this actually, my grandma, she loved to bake, and she used to bake from cookies to brownies to her chocolate cake to pies. She would bake, and she would bake for the holidays and as well. So Thanksgiving, you
Mm.
would come into her house, you would smell instant smells of deliciousness, that turkey, the stuffing, all of it that you bake. But there would also be her chocolate chip cookies that she would make for me and Steffi, as well as for her cousins. And so we would always try to get more cookies. It took me a very long time to finally master that recipe of her cookies and find out what she puts in those cookies. Again, I don't think I can reveal it, but it was kind of shocking to me when finally I got it. It's very much a surprise. But it actually, I was about 12 years old and I was in junior high, um, or intermediate school, as they called it in Staten Island, because it is intermediate school. That's what it was. And we were told to do a how to project, basically, how to make something. So you had to go ahead and make something and just tell the class how you made it, from building a birdhouse to whatever it was that you could do. My grandma decided, maybe you could try sewing, because I didn't know what I was good at. Again,
Mhm.
I love to draw. I loved puzzles. And so But yeah, to explain how to draw to someone, again, I wasn't into doing that to a class. So she thought, let's try sewing. That didn't work very well. Knitting was out of the question, Clarence, because I nearly took out my eye with her knitting needles. Again.
So yeah, out of the question.
Out of the question. If you know me, you know that knitting might not be my forte. I can sew a button. I'm very happy when I don't draw blood when sewing the button. But yeah, thanks, Grandma and Dad, because again, I did not inherit his skills of designing clothing. Again, I did not inherit that skill. But
you just inherited the skill of loving the clothes.
Right. Yeah, but
not designing them. Yeah.
Correct. But he went for more than just designing, again, and being a special order cutter. He then later joined the Department of Defense and became a defense to a contract specialist so he did move up from just being a special order cutter. But again, still don't have that skill of
I told you, certified badass.
Right. I cannot design clothing. I probably could if I really tried, but again, I don't know. But so she found this recipe. I think she was going through a magazine or something on making cookies. And she was looking at the recipe and she's like, this would probably be pretty good for her. This would be good for Joy. So she calls up my mom and she tells my mom this. And we get the recipe because she reads us the recipe. And it's to make a double chocolate chip cookie. So I'm like, okay, I could probably do this. Two of the ingredients it calls for is, and by the way, you can't, if you did try to make this now, you probably could, but I don't think the steps would be very good due to inflation. And that's due to the fact that it calls for a cake mix, a chocolate cake mix. It calls for chocolate chips, and also calls for chocolate instant pudding. Now, due to shrinkflation, those cake boxes were not as big in amount of ounces as they were back then. So the recipe sizes might not switch over to today unless you're really good and know what you're doing. So those were like the three major ingredients to make these cookies, as well as, of course, eggs, butter, whatever else you put in the cookies. So I made the cookies. I was very happy I did not burn the house down. Score 1 point. Again, I am 12 years old, mind you, but not to worry. I do have a parent making sure I do not burn the house down. But I am making these cookies myself. And I make the cookies. I'm very happy with the way they came out. And I take them to my how-to class, to the class. And I now have to present what I did, all the steps on how to make double chocolate chip cookies, as well as what the ingredients called for. And then, of course, I don't enjoy speaking in front of others. So you could just imagine how well that came out, the whole speech part. But in the end, you have to pass out the cookies or show the cookies to the class. And one person goes, you burned the cookies. I was like, no, they're double chocolate chip. The teacher was like, well, why doesn't everyone try one? So I hand out some of the cookies, and some people don't want them because they think they're burnt or whatever. But my teacher was kind of like, you made these yourself? Yes. I did have an adult, obviously, with me, so I don't burn my house down. But obviously, yes, I made them myself. I don't think she believed that I made them myself, Clarence. To this day, I still don't think so.
Yeah,
because
I know the feeling. Yeah.
Right. Because how could a 7th grader bake cookies?
Yes, absolutely. Because the same thing happened to me in the 4th grade. We were in my teacher, Mrs. Print. Hi, if you happen to hear this, Mrs. Print. Yes, I'm going to tell the story about you. We learned about the praying mantis in science, and she gave us a homework where we had to write a poem, a paragraph or a poem about what we learned about the praying mantis. And of course, I went home, and because which we're going to be talking about in part 2. We're getting to the juicy part, guys, about how Joy discovered that the baking, how she nailed this recipe at 12, was just a clue about her purpose, and how this was the beginning of her realizing that this is something she was meant to do, heal through the art of food and her recipes. And me being a writer and a speaker, this was my first clue, or one of my first clues. And I wrote, the poem, and it rhymed and everything. And I went and I showed it to her. I read it to the class. And instead of a congratulations, instead of an award, an accolade, my classmates loved it. She called me up and she grilled me. I had to show her the book. I had to show her everything. She thought I plagiarized it. And I'm standing there defending myself as something that should have been a happy moment. She ruined by thinking, and that's how people are, right?
Yeah.
When they see you really do something well, instead of giving you your flowers, instead of clapping for you, it always has to come with a backhanded compliment or suspicion, or they try to dull your moment. And why can't we just understand that there are not only gifted people, but, like I love to say, staying in your lane? When you're in your lane, which is what God put you here to do, like, you're going to shine. And not only are you going to shine, you're going to outshine. And that's the part that people seem to have an issue with, which all they have to do is find their lane and they'll know why. So the teacher pretty much didn't believe you baked those.
No, she didn't. She didn't believe it, but that's okay. It didn't matter to me. It really didn't. It hurt a little bit, but it really didn't matter because, it was fun. It was enjoyable. After that, I can't say I just started making tarts or something, because I didn't. After that, of course, I finished, obviously, 7th grade and moved on to 8th grade, and then went to high school in 9th grade and graduated high school. I didn't really start baking a lot till I was graduated college. It was kind of like my way of de-stressing I got my degree, and it was kind of my way of de-stressing as I try to find a job. And, you send out those resumes, so you're looking at the New York Times want ad section under college graduate or recent college graduate, or whatever you think you could fulfill. And even there was some ads on the internet, because the internet was out then too. But so you're going through all that, and you're sending resume after resume, and you're waiting for the phone to ring, and it doesn't ring, and it's frustrating. It's not like my dad and mom were trying to kick me out of the house or anything, but I just wanted to be like, hey, I wanted to do something. Yes, after 4 years of school, obviously I took, after 4 years, it was a joke. One of the people my dad worked with, he told me this was he said to me, congratulations. And I remember this. He worked with my dad. He was also a defense, he also worked in the Department of Defense. He was also an industrial specialist too, in contracts. And he told me to go ahead, take a year off. The big guy won't care. You spent 4 years in college and going to school and learning and all that. Take a year off, enjoy, relax. So basically, I didn't want to just stay in my, pajamas or sweatpants and eating Frosted Flakes out of the box. I wanted to do something, Clarence. And sending out your resume can be very aggravating and very frustrating. It's like there must be 1,000 college graduates, and we must all have that desperate smell on us. Not that I was desperate, because again, I still had a roof over my head. My parents were not turning my bedroom into a rec room. I could proudly say I went to the college I went to. It was local. I went to the College of Staten Island. I left College of Staten Island for a few years, and then went to Hunter College for a year, and then after that went back to the College of Staten Island. The reason being was I finally got a car. That was actually that wasn't really. It was I thought Hunter was amazing. I thought Hunter would be great. I thought Hunter would be enlightening. I finally went to my goal school, but it turned out it was just like all the others, and it wasn't that amazing. And having to schlep from Staten Island into Manhattan and take a bus to the ferry, from the ferry to a train, to every single day, it was exhausting. And getting up at 5 in the morning, I'm not a 5 in the morning kind of person, Clarence.
I'm just
Right.
going to sleep at 5 in the morning because I
Right.
do my best work at night. I'm a night owl. But what did you major in?
I majored in business management. That is what I majored in.
It's so funny. Business management to baker. And
Mm-hmm.
but folks, do not think that she totally strayed from that. Because again, our purpose, everything we're here to do, there will be clues along the way. And even the things we think are not connected to our purpose, even the things we think is just outlandish and just miscellaneous, and why did I do that? As your purpose, as God starts to reveal what you're here to do, you're gonna realize why you did that. So in part 2, you're gonna see why she maybe didn't know then why she was majoring in business management, but you'll know and you'll get it. So tell me about some of the signs and synchronicities. Now that you know what you know along the way, when did it start becoming clear to you that this baking, this was more than just a hobby? Like there was something here and something major here.
Well, I didn't really think much about it. Like, again, my goal was always like when I would make something, I'd be like, I want to make chocolate chip cookies, and I would want to make like my grandma's recipe. And I would try so hard to make my grandma's recipe that I made lots of different batches. And sometimes there would be a lot of leftovers too. So my dad would bring in to work, and one of his coworkers, he would have a coffee corner. So he would bring in the leftovers, like whether it was cookies or muffins or whatever, and he would bring it into the coffee corner, and he would give it out to the people would come, and they would get their cup of coffee that they paid for because, again, and they would also get the cookies or the muffins. I never really thought much about it because my dad would be like, oh, they loved them. And I was like, oh, they're just being nice and being polite, because I didn't really think that they were so amazing or so incredible or I had any kind of a gift for it. I just followed a recipe. That was kind of my thing. And I did it because my way of, like I said, de-stressing from being that college graduate trying to find a job. And I would make a cake, and one of the cake recipes calls for melting down chocolate. And, you have your windows open, and it's, chilly enough that you could have your windows open. And people from across the street that live across the street would be like outside, and my dad was like, yes, like, I smell chocolate. Yes, she's melting chocolate. I never really thought I had any kind of amazing skill. I just felt I was following a recipe plan. I didn't really see it as much as I just saw it as just a hobby, just, something I enjoy doing as a way to de-stress. It didn't come until later on, until now, that I really stopped to really think and see that I always had this, that this was what I was meant to do. Because I got the cookbook. My parents bought me the cookbook because I wanted to make stuffing for Thanksgiving. In that cookbook, I then found cake recipes and muffin recipes and cookie recipes and brownie recipe and all these things. And I would just then go ahead and I would just follow the recipe. I didn't years later think of all the different things that I could do to change that or to add something or make it a little different or put a different spin on it. I didn't do that until years.
That's when you discover that this baking was like more than a passion. It was like more than a hobby.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't take me until now, years later.
Years later, yes. But now
Yeah.
you can see the puzzle pieces, You know, you can see the hints along the way.
Yeah.
Speaking of years later, this is where the story sort of kind of takes a dark turn. You lost not one, but both of your parents.
Yep.
And so in part 2, we're going to get into that. And that's where we're going to pick up. And that's where, after the death of your parents, that's when God really started showing you that he had a plan for you. He had a plan for your life. And it involved what you had been doing since you were 12. And baking, things that you used to just do, and you used to bake treats for us at the job, and you used to bake treats for your coworkers, not thinking that this was something very innocent, and not realizing that this was a part of your life's plan here. And we're going to get into that. Okay, so stay tuned for part 2. This story really gets good, guys. Okay, so see you in a minute.